Hello, Professor Reed. My name is Cameron Sloan, and I'm in your Teaching Diverse Learners course, Section 2. I had already recorded this, but I cannot find it anywhere on my computer, so I had to do it again. And whenever I first recorded it, I looked a lot more professional, so I apologize. Anyways, I decided to do my disability resource project on the emotional disturbance disability. I wanted to do this one because it was very appealing to me because I feel like it's not talked about as much as autism or ADHD or some sort of disability like that. So it was very intriguing to me, and I wanted to learn more about it. And I've learned a lot about it since I have completed this project. So we'll start right in. The first thing we have, what is emotional disturbance? We have characteristics, we have evidence-based practices, and then I put my sources along with additional information. So to begin, what is emotional disturbance? The IDEA definition is emotional disturbance means a condition exhibiting one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time to a marked degree that adversely affects the education performance. So we'll see what those characteristics are. Those characteristics are, oh, that's not right. Go back. Sorry about that. All right, so characteristics can be an inability to learn that cannot be explained by intellectual, sensory, or other health factors, an inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. It could be inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances. It could be a general pervasive mood of unhappiness or depression, or it could also be a tendency to develop physical symptoms or fears associated with personal or school problems. Moving along. An example of emotional disturbance could be schizophrenia. This term does not apply to children who are socially maladjusted unless it is determined that they have an emotional disturbance under paragraph C4I of this section. Alright, so we'll talk a little bit more about some characteristics. So we want to know, what does emotional disturbance look like? And these symptoms or characteristics sort of seem, I guess, as a common symptom. However, teachers always need to be able to evaluate their student, and if they believe that there is something going on more than just normal day-to-day characteristics, they need to dive deeper and get a better understanding of the student. So to begin with, students can be hyperactive, which just means they have a short attention span or they're very impulsive. Students can be aggressive or create serious self-injurious behavior, which could be acting out or fighting. Students could have a withdrawal characteristics, which is when they're just not interacting socially with others, or if they have anxiety. Another characteristics could be immaturity, which is inappropriate crying, temper tantrums, or poor coping skills. Another one could be a learning difficulty, which is just academically performing below grade level. This is my dog Paint. You need to go lay down. All right, moving right along. I found this very neat source here, and I listed it. I'm not going to play it just for sake of time. However, it's an inside look of in the classroom with students who have the emotional disturbance disorder. All right, so now we're going to move into evidence-based practices. And the way this is set up is a little bit confusing because it kind of bounces back and forth, so I'll try and help it go a little bit more smoother. So basically, the evidence-based practices I found on a website, and it's many different interventions that have been published about students who have emotional disturbance. And then I listed a couple of my favorite. We have peer modeling, we have teacher-mediated, and then we have self-mediated. So we will begin with teacher-mediated. So teacher-mediated is interventions where the teacher or an administrator of the intervention other than the student himself has to take responsibility for treatment through manipulation of antecedents or consequences. Shh. Go, lay down. I am so sorry. Go, lay down. It's a struggle in this house. Alrighty, so the example of this that I did was take words and drill instruction. And this, a procedure happens in which students read lists of words along with a tape that is presented with 90 words per minute. This evidence was found in a secondary setting. Moving right along, we have peer modeling. So for peer modeling, students act as peer models to receive instruction in desired behaviors, then engage in these behaviors in front of students that are not as capable in these areas. The teacher draws the student's attention to the peer model and identifies the desired behaviors the student should emulate. Overall, the peer-centered interventions demonstrated an incredibly strong positive correlation. This intervention was demonstrated in both elementary and secondary settings. So for this, I believe it's a very good way of trying to help students because in elementary settings and even in secondary settings, students are always looking around at their peers and they want to fit in, so they will try and model the behavior that they see. All right, next we have another teacher mediated. And this is when the teacher used written study of objectives, division of the course into small units of material, use of the written word, a student self-pacing through the curriculum, a high mastery criteria for advancement to the next unit of material, immediate feedback for exams, and use of student tutors to improve spelling performance. This was also found in an elementary setting. So basically, the teacher is giving the student a list of what she expects from him, and he or she is able to pace themselves throughout. Moving along, we have a self-mediated, and a self-mediated is basically where the student is independent and they are having to problem solve and achieve the outcome that is desired. All right, so like I said, the student is responsible for providing academic instruction. This strategy was observed in both elementary and secondary. This one's a little bit more hard to follow because students need to be, resilient in themselves, and they need to have that perseverance to work and achieve their schoolwork. I know for me in elementary school, I had a lot of trouble doing stuff by myself, and I had to stay on task with my teachers at all times, and that allowed me to do better in school. So I'm not really sure. I don't believe this one would work as well as teacher mediated or peer mediated. All right, another one that teachers whereas teacher mediated is where they verbalize math problems. And this is a process where teachers ask students to say the math problems aloud before solving them. So this helps the students evaluate the problems better rather than just moving right into it. All right, so then here I have additional information. So after I did my SPED hours at a local elementary school, I spoke with my teacher to see if she had any information, personal information that I could share in this project, and I got a lot of information. There was actually a student in her class who had emotional disturbance, and she was able to tell me a lot of characteristics about this student. She told me that no case is the same and that no two students have the same characteristics or anything about them. It varies from child to child. And then also found a cool fact, and it says of the 74.5 million children in the U.S., an estimated 17.1 million have had a psychiatric disorder. I think this is really sad, and I hope that our healthcare system will be able to better provide for students and children who suffer from psychiatric disorders. Okay, so what causes emotional disturbance? No one knows a specific cause. However, there are several factors that have been linked. Some things are hereditary, brain disorder, diet, stress, and family functioning. Most weaknesses are treatable. However, if they're left untreated, mental health will drop dramatically. So with the student that my teacher and I discussed, she had a very traumatic childhood. She was actually adopted, and she just experienced things that children should never have to experience, and they believe that's what caused her to suffer the way that she did. She has outbursts where she physically harms the teacher. She cusses, she scratches, she bites, she kicks. Thankfully, she's never done anything to a student. And whenever she does have these outbursts, they always move her into the safe room where there's nothing in the room, and they have to hold the door shut. They cannot leave her in the room, but they leave the door cracked and they stand in between the cracks. So typically the student, whenever she is having her outburst, she runs, she charges the teacher, and she attacks the teacher while they're in that crack. Once the student has calmed down, they're able to shut the door, and they tell her she has 5 minutes to self-reflect and think about what she has done, and then they will come in there and talk to her. Most of the time this works, but they are very informed in knowing whether or not her mood has changed or if she's still in that outburst mood. So that was very informative for me to learn about. Another thing that I have listed on my resource is I'm not sure if you have seen the new movie, The Joker. I went and saw it the weekend it came out, and I had never really watched any of the Joker movies. And my husband told me that this movie was not like any of the other Joker movies. I believe after researching this disability that the character, the Joker, suffered from emotional disturbance. He was very, very, very disturbed, and it's really sad. I think that this movie brings so much light to mental disabilities, and it needs to be viewed by many, many people so that they can see that mental disability, it's not a joke. And most time, if a child who has a mental disability, if it is intervened before they grow up, we're able to stop them from completing acts of violence like the Joker did. I truly believe that anyone who has a disability, if they have the right surroundings and role models, that it can really shape the way that they are and the way that they develop into an adult. So I have this on here. It's a little trailer. I'm not going to show it just for lack of time, but it's very violent. So I'm not sure if you're into that sort of thing, but it brings light to mental illness, and I believe that that's very important to today's society because mental illness needs to be taken more seriously. The Joker, he has a psychiatrist who asks him the same questions every day, and basically he just gets fed up with it, and others that are living in the same city as him suffer from mental disabilities, and they see that they're not being taken seriously, and they're kind of just pushed under the rug because others are embarrassed of them. Again, I think this is really sad, and I hope that as people view this movie, they can learn more about mental illness and that it's not a joke and it needs to be treated with respect. And then lastly, I have the sources that I use to complete this disability resource. Overall, I've learned a lot about this disability, and I want to do what I can to make a difference in a child's life, no matter what disability they have. I've loved your class and all the resources and everything that I've learned, and I know that I will be able to move forward as a teacher candidate with a better understanding of mental disabilities in the classroom. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I'm sorry about my dogs. They're a little crazy, but thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Bye.